I'd like to call the September 12th, 2022 Calhoun County Council meeting on.
Yes, sir. Lord, we thank you for your presence with us tonight, and we come before you with hearts just asking you to be with us in a very spiritual way tonight, Lord. We have very serious matters that we're discussing, Lord, and we've been through this process over given previous months, and we just ask for wisdom, guidance, that your spirit will be upon us all, that we give great respect and deference to the others, and to just put our ideas out there in facts and not any sort of thing other than in the right manner and the right spirit, Lord. But that you just guide our hearts and the decisions we make so that they're best for the people of Calhoun County and for those represented here, those people that we answer to in this audience. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. I have approval of the agenda.
Can't hear.
I have approval of the agenda. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now, back there? All right, okay. I have a motion for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second. Properly moved and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, likewise. Mr. Whetstone, I have you down, Chairman Whetstone from Lexington County. You want to speak first, or you want to stick around? I'll bring you up first because you may want to get back. I may be lenient to allow him more than 3 minutes because he's got some important information for you. Y'all know the deal is 3 minutes, but I'll allow you more than 3 minutes if you need to.
All right. Chairman, Council, thank you for having me here tonight. Citizens, thank you for reaching out. I'm Scott Whetstone. I'm Chairman of Lexington County Council. The reason I'm here tonight is due to the citizens of Sandy Run in Calhoun County and Lexington County, because this issue affects my side of the line too. I just would ask that you listen to these voices that speak and answer on their behalf. You know, this is an infrastructure issue. It's a quality of life issue. I plead to you to listen to those voices. They put you in those seats. Always remember that. We're here for those people. Don't make the mistakes that Lexington County did years ago that caused us to have to do our moratorium this past year. You know, that was a very impactful thing to us, but it allowed us to shut everything down. We recovered from it, and we learned from our mistakes, and we came up with our comprehensive plan. So remember that as you take the time and prepare Calhoun County for a healthy, sustainable growth that will actually benefit Calhoun County in the future. You said you need to compete with Lexington County in one of your previous meetings. Wrong. You don't need to compete with us. You need to work with us and use our zoning methods to help modify your zoning methods. Accomplishments we've made. Lexington County never changes for the builders, and we never will. That's right. We'll never change for the developers. We change for the people. We want sustainable growth. We want quality of life in our area, and that's what we do. We've got 300,000 citizens in our area, and they keep coming every day because of the quality and the sustainable life that they can provide their kids and the school systems that we're able to provide. Remember the oath of office you took to represent the people of Calhoun County. They are the ones who allowed you to sit in those seats. This building and everything in it is owned by them. You work for them as your administrator works for you. As the administrator should follow your lead and never try to influence the council. Just allowing rooftops is not the path to bringing industry. Industry looks at a multitude of things in the county. They look at surrounding schools of technology. They look at colleges. There's a lot of, you have workforce that's surrounding your you do not have to change the landscape of your county to bring industry in, because they're going to look at all kind of multitudes of issues that you deal with. So this type of growth will only create a burden for Calhoun County. It's going to create the burden on your infrastructure, your EMS, your fire, your police. It's just not the right way to go. You want the sustainable growth that 30 years from now is still going to be there, still increasing in value. Not something that is what I deem as a cookie cutter subdivision that after about 10 years, the value is going to start crumbling and going down. That's right. And it's going to be low income housing. So listen to these citizens and listen to the counties around you and the other influential people around you. Make your choice wisely, and let everyone help you. Just listen to all of these people. That's your voice. That's what you're there for. That's what we're all there for as elected officials. And I thank you for letting me speak tonight.
Thank you very much. I want to reiterate that it's going to be a 3-minute limit on everyone else who comes up. I did that out of courtesy to Lexington County. I think that speech kind of benefited all of us. Glad to hear from you. Mr. Will Dillard.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of council. Hope y'all doing well. My name is Will Dillard. I'm an attorney with Belser Belser Law Firm in Columbia. I was asked to come here on behalf of a concerned citizen of the county to speak in opposition to the proposed Sandy Run Crossing PUD. And I'll tell you, I'm here for an objecting landowner tonight. I'm also a former planning commission member in my town, a municipal attorney, so I understand from both sides these are difficult issues. I think the folks out here are much more qualified than me, as you are, to understand the community character aspects of this issue. I want to touch in my brief time on what I see to be really fatal defects in the PDD application before you. First and foremost, the typical process, I believe here and probably everywhere in South Carolina for rezoning is the planning commission makes a recommendation and then the council approves or denies. They make the final decision. What the county zoning ordinance actually says, this is section 511.1, is that a PDD may be established in the district upon review and approval by the planning commission and county council. So if you look at the language of your ordinance, it says that for a PDD, both council and the planning commission have to approve it. That's what the language says. I would assume you probably want to amend that moving forward. But my understanding, the planning commission recommended denying this PDD. And so I think you have a fundamental issue there that prevents it from being approved as a final action by the county, even with council approval. Second issue is that also in the PDD ordinance, section 512.3, it states that in terms of permitted uses, the uses must be, quote, identified and listed on the basis of retail, office, wholesale, residential, manufacturing, etc. This PDD application, all it says for the little commercial out parcels is future commercial use. And it gives a couple of examples of, Waffle House might come, but there's no actual detail about the uses like you might see in the general zoning ordinance permitted uses table, specific types of uses. That's required for a PDD in Calhoun County. It's not in this application. Similarly, section 512.2 states that PDD applications have to include land regulation to an equivalent or higher degree than for other types of development. There's nothing whatsoever in this PDD application saying how the commercial lots are to be developed. For example, if you look again at the general zoning ordinance, the dimensional requirements table, minimum side area, minimum lot width, setbacks, impervious surfaces, maximum building height, maximum sign height. None of those issues are covered. There's not even an attempt to cover those issues in this PDD application. Again, that's the reason it's not valid under your zoning ordinance. I had a couple more points.
Dillard, your time is up, but I'm going to hear you.
Okay, and I'll be very brief. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. The next issue, there's I believe a 25% common open space requirement for a PDD. And I think that they meet the measurement of that area, 25% of total development. But in the zoning ordinance, common open space is defined to include that, quote, "Where required for residential development, it shall be freely accessible to all residents of a development or project." As I see the site plan, you've got the houses and then really not connected in any way all the open space. Most of it, I think, is on the other side of a pond and a creek that's not freely accessible by the residents in any way. And so, once again, under the general county zoning ordinance, this does not meet what's required to move forward with PDD. And then the final thing I'll say is, again, that the folks behind me, I think a lot of them will have things to say about the community character, whether this is a good idea or a bad idea, whether it fits the community. I will say the standard that these types of whether it was arbitrary. Was it an arbitrary decision? I'll just point out, I think it would be a court would need to consider the 2019 Sandy Run Community Plan really went in a completely opposite direction than what this PDD would provide for. It doesn't just go in the opposite direction. If you look at the densities, I believe it's 1 house per 2 acres under the current RE zoning. The county's single-family residential zoning allows 1 house for approximately a quarter acre, just under a quarter acre. This doesn't even go to the single-family residential density. It goes beyond that to, their site plan says an average or a standard lot size of 8,400 square feet, which is less than 2/10 of an acre per lot. So my point is, if the court is looking at whether this is an arbitrary decision relative to the 2019 Sandy Run Community Plan, it doesn't just go to the single family density, it goes even beyond that. And I think that's important to consider. So thank you for the time and the extra time.
Thank you, Mr. Let me just say again, I'm going to reiterate 3 minutes, but it's something I think is important to the whole council hearing and the audience. I will suspend that 3 minutes and let you be longer. Next on the agenda, we have Pastor Wagner.
Pastor Wagner.
Wagner, okay.
Yeah, I appreciate you moving me up the list as we signed up. I noticed I wasn't the first on the list, but I figured I got moved up because you knew I'd be overtime also. If you're got a preacher and all these people, it's got to be overtime.
No, sir. Why you are right there. You were the only person I had ahead of you was Nelson, and she requested to be last.
Oh, okay.
Everybody else was listed on the agenda.
Well, thank you very much, and I will be brief because I can tend to be too wordy. I was at the last meeting and I listened intently, and as you went through the meeting, I heard the voices of the people and I listened to good explanations and everything, and I said, I am not worried. I said, these men are not going to vote for a rezoning. And I sat back and said, honestly, I am not worried that they're going to vote for rezoning because it is so obvious that the people don't want it. And then twice the planning commission said that it was not approved. And so I had already gone to the internet, and we all love the internet because we can get what you have already done off of the internet in ordinance 2022-17, which you passed back in July 25th of 2022. The ordinance for adoption of amendments of Calhoun County zoning ordinance. Whereas Calhoun County desires to clarify and simplify the regulation of land use under the county's existing zoning ordinances by incorporating a clear and concise table of permitted uses in the ordinances, and by incorporating existing county regulations of manufactured homes, mobile homes, and recreational vehicles. That was what it was about. And so as we go down through it, as whereas, number one, whereas number two, the county is empowered by the state of South Carolina, whereas number three, the county has followed the procedures set forth in the South Carolina Code 629-760 for adopting and amending the zoning ordinances by submitting the proposed zoning ordinances amendments to the Calhoun County Planning Commission for review. That's where it says it once. The Planning Commission for review. Advertising, et cetera, obtaining a recommendation from the Planning Commission on the amendments. Now this one was recommended by the Planning Commission. What we're talking about now on the rezoning was not recommended unanimously by the Planning Commission twice. Number three, the Planning Commission has recommended approval for the proposed zoning ordinance of amendments, and so that's where it says for the second time in this thing that you approved that the Planning Commission was for it. Whereas number four, is that my two now?
Yes, that's
whereas number four, the Planning Commission said it again, you passed it, you signed your name to it, Shayla signed it, and everybody was in favor of it because you listened to the Planning Commission. I don't see how you could possibly vote for the rezoning if you follow your procedures as you have that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Oh, my goodness. 80.
That was in chapter 3,
What kind of
verse
owl?
17.
Al, is there an Al?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Big influence.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you for all y'all being here. We appreciate you being here. Take your time away from your family and all that stuff and come here and spend time with us to guide this county in the direction it needs to go. You understand there is development coming. It's inevitable. It is gonna happen. But the infrastructure for this type of development, as you've heard from everybody, it can't handle it. But it's up to you guys, or maybe later gals or whatever, to control this development, to hold it to what the citizens and what the infrastructure can handle. Y'all are all proud men. You want to be able to walk through town and shake hands with everybody. And we appreciate you being proud, and we want you to stay proud. But when you turn around and you have a tendency to go against what everything, the three of you that went against what, there's a one positive thing about this whole thing that I've heard here. Now, three of you know something that we don't know. What it is, we don't know. And I myself would like to learn, and I'm sure everybody here would like to learn what it is that you know good about this development that we don't know. And just take your pride and sit there and look at it and say, okay, I'm approving this development, this rezoning, because X, Y, Z, whatever it may be. And that's all I had to say.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate it.
Can you back up?
Oh, there it is.
It's kind of interesting. I'm gonna piggyback off that, what you said, one word, you said pride. You go back through the Bible and you look at stuff that says pride. Pride is the downfall of a lot of things. And I also think this 3-minute talk, it don't just for here, it's also for a phone call. Because I tried to call a couple of you gentlemen, and I get hung up on because as soon as I try to make a point that y'all don't want to hear, either try to run over, cut me off, or hang up on me. Okay, I'm gonna ask you this then. During the planning phase, because I hadn't even got this answered and I've asked this specifically. During the planning for this, has anybody during this time of planning for this asked EMS and the Sheriff's Department specifically what they would need to support this? No one has given me an answer. The only thing that kind of resembled an answer was, well, we've talked to the teachers. Teachers on the Sheriff's Department. I didn't ask about that. But you look at the traffic and everything that's already involved in all this stuff that we don't have as it is. It don't work, and you have people around here that don't work, that don't want it. I get told that the council members and stuff, we're here for the little people, we're here for the business, we're here for this, that, and the other. But you ain't listening to the people. You're not listening to them. They tell you you don't want it, we don't want it. Let's force feed it and give it to them anyway. All we're asking for is to listen. And what I feel like a lot of the stuff, the reason some of this stuff's getting pushed, it doesn't involve y'all. It's not gonna mess with y'all, because y'all way in another part of town. A lot of people out there, we hunt. Do you know that if you go hunting, and if I go to hunt in my backyard, and there's a house next to me within so many 100 yards, I have to go ask that person permission to shoot a rifle, to hunt a deer in my backyard. And if they say no, I can't. So my alternative is to go with a bow and arrow. So I go and shoot one with a bow and arrow and kill it. It goes into their yard. Again, I gotta ask permission to go into these people's yard to say, can I get my animal that I harvest? No. Then my other thing is, well, I've got an animal that I can't harvest to go over there. I just go over in the yard and get it anyway and get trespassed, and then the sheriff's department comes in. The only thing we ever ask is y'all just listen to what we're saying. You got plenty of people up there to say we don't want it. I'm gonna go ahead and give it the time back, that's fine.
Again, like I said, we want to hear from as many people as possible. Some people have been on this agenda numerous times, so I'm going to skip it. Who's skipping? Go to Julie Taylor.
And I will be brief because I have already spoken. Again, we appreciate y'all being here as well, and thank you. So we live adjacent to the subject property, and last night we had something at CA. Everybody around here knows that that's Calhoun County. Luckily, it wasn't like any given Sunday when I-26 is at a complete standstill. Otherwise, our 25-minute commute would have been much longer, as I imagine it would be with the addition of 170 new houses. Forgive my quick math, but 170 houses times 2 adults, that's 340 plus any children. That's a lot of new neighbors. Anyway, when we got to around the Sandy Run Lutheran Church area, we passed a Calhoun County deputy with blue lights traveling towards Sandy Run. When we got to Beaver Creek Great Circle area, we encountered yet another Calhoun County deputy, again with blue lights, going towards Sandy Run. And my son said, "Mama, they were moving." Undoubtedly something was happening near Sandy Run, and they were moving from St. Matthews to Sandy Run. And to speak of moving, God bless our volunteer fire department folks. Some of them come whizzing by our house to get to the fire department. When there's an issue on I-26, they can have a very hard time getting back across the interstate to service these new 170 homes. The long and short of it is, we don't have the resources to support a mega neighborhood. Not to mention the can of worms and precedent like this rezoning would open and unleash in Sandy Run and Calhoun County. It won't stop in Sandy Run. It's coming to an area near and dear to you soon. Thank you.
Angie Matthews.
Mr. Chairman, Council, I'm Angie Matthews, a lifelong resident of Sandy Run. Mr. Haigler, WIS-TV recently aired a part of an interview with you in which you said that this rezoning is about emotions. I and countless others make no apologies for being emotional about the place we live and our family's future. During the August 22nd council meeting, you spoke of being witness to many mistakes the county made in the past. That may be true. But these people here are telling you that they love, in essence, they love where they live. That means that throughout the years and the many years you've served, there's been a lot of things that you got right. And I'll give credit where credit is due, because you deserve it. Ask these people what they love about the place they live. They'll tell you they love the quiet, rural, peaceful nature that is Sandy Run. I've heard dozens express the same thing during the Planning Commission, County Council meetings. This same sentiment was conveyed during the planning process, stakeholder meetings, and the resultant Sandy Run area plan prepared by Mr. Gardner. Sandy Run residents made a big compromise when they gave up their property rights in exchange for a zoning ordinance that they thought would protect them from high-density cookie-cutter style housing developments like the one being proposed. Residents knew that this type of mismanaged growth would eventually lead to Sandy Run being transformed something they no longer recognize. Tonight I ask you, why has Sandy Sandy Run residents been the only ones asked to compromise? Why isn't the developer being asked to compromise? Why isn't the county saying to the developer, our residents are overwhelmingly against this. They love where they live. They love Calhoun County. They love Sandy Run. They compromised their property rights. Now it's your turn, Gateway. Come back to us with a compromise that fits within the current zoning. Tonight I'm asking you to act on behalf of the citizens that elected you. I'm asking you that you not let dollar signs motivate you more than people. We've all seen the figures, the hefty price tag that was paid for this property. But I challenge you to think outside of the box. Look closely at what the current zoning allows. Find a way to highlight agriculture, nature, the rural character of Sandy Run. Highlight the very things that residents care so deeply about. In the interview with WIS, Mr. Haigler, you spoke of this housing development being an opportunity for the county. Consider this. What if the rest of the county looked at this and was able to say the county council did right by Sandy Run? What if on this first go you upheld our zoning? What if on this first go you got it right and you gained the trust of all these people in the county? Gentlemen, that's the greatest opportunity.
Thank you, George Rogers.
Thank you for the opportunity this evening to speak here, provide you with my observations and comments. And I'll sign Heisman Trophy autographs later.
I was about to say, Mr. Rogers, if my son finds out George Rogers was here and I didn't let him know, say he was.
And they even named the street after me. How good can you get? All right. If I am, for any reason, not factually accurate, let me know so I can correct my comments. Several years ago, the Calhoun County Council commissioned the Planning Commission to develop a plan for growth in the Sandy Run community. At the cost to the taxpayers is somewhere between $130,000 and $180,000. I've heard both figures. I don't know which one's accurate. Okay? This plan was unanimously approved by the Planning Commission and the County Council. Several months ago, I assume it's months rather than a year, a developer purchased the parcel of land at exit 25 and is now seeking variance from the zoning specified in the prior plan. The developer had full access to this plan prior to the purchase of the property, since the plan was developed and approved before the purchase. Yet the developer proceeded and apparently assumed that they would be able to get a variance. How they were going to get it, I don't know. But they assumed that they're going to get it, otherwise they wouldn't purchase the property. The developer's plans, both versions I've heard about, were presented to the Planning Commission different times, and both were rejected with unanimous decisions. The plan was then presented to the Calhoun County Council, and at your last minute meeting, it was approved with a 3-2 majority. I don't understand how this happened. Calhoun County is a singular entity, albeit there's some differences in the various communities, but we're still a singular community. As such, we need to understand each other's needs and desires and stand with each other for the best of the county. When we had the torrential rains in 2017, people from all over the county pulled together and helped those in other areas of the county, not only with road repairs and homes, but also to replace clothing, home goods, and food. Sandy Run now needs the support of the rest of the county. Each of you were elected by your neighbors to represent your districts in the management of the entire county, not just your district.
That's right.
A responsibility that should not be taken lightly, and I'm sure you don't. It was mentioned in the last meeting that we, the general citizenry, is not aware of all the information that the council has. I question why this information is being kept from us. What information is available that cannot be shared with us, the citizens that voted you into your office. Can you tell us what that information is, or at least tell us why you cannot share it? It was also mentioned that Calhoun County is in competition with Orangeburg and Lexington counties for housing developments, and in this regard, those counties have put a hold on any new developments of this type. In addition, throughout the state, Richmond County, Greenville County, Spartanburg County, and Dorchester County, that I know of, have all done the same.
I'm sorry, Mr. Rogers, for that. Your time is up.
I have this available if anyone else wants to read it.
Jim Allmer.
Good evening. Can you hear me in the back? Yeah, gentlemen, how you doing tonight? My name is Jim Ulmer. I'm a candidate for the House of Representatives for Calhoun, Lexington, and Orangeburg counties in District 93. And my phone was ringing off the hook last week. Y'all are victims of your own success and your predecessor's success. Calhoun County is a jewel because it's a wonderful mix of rural, farming, wonderful place to live, plus you have a wonderful industrial base. And over the years, from Orangeburg County, my family's farm is on the Orangeburg-Lexington County line. So this is our Lexington County chairman, county council chairman. Anyway, taxes in Lexington are high. Taxes in Orangeburg are high. Taxes over in Richmond County are high. That's why so many people are moving to Sandy Run. They want to come here because you have low taxes, you have a great crime fighter in your sheriff. Let's give Mr. Summers. We can't, Orangeburg County is run amok with crime. And the economic engine that is in Calhoun County, you've got Zeus, you've got whatever the new name, whatever the name of Carolina Eastman is. And all the other, and that. And I mean, you've got a wonderful thing. You've got smaller industries here, and they're coming. And Charleston is growing like crazy. You can walk from Somerville, basically on rooftops now, to downtown Charleston, which 10 years ago, there was a great big, the Somerville Shriners had a great big thing. There was a campground, had pastures all over the place. Just got over the houses in that area. And you need to control the growth. Don't go too fast. I work with a guy who has a pizza place in Redbank, South Carolina. That's a suburb of Lexington. If you go up number 6, it's highway right over here. And you look over to the left, it used to be a kind of a joke when we go to Lake Murray from home. You know, houses built on that sand hill, you know, waiting for rain to come where it slough off, roll off the hill into number 6. Well, if you get back on the hill where White Knoll High School is, there must be 10,000 houses in there. And traffic is absurd there. Folks can't get from Lexington to work from number 1, 378. Traffic is horrible. So you need to be very careful planning. Don't kill the goose to lay the golden egg. Y'all live in a jewel of South Carolina. My buddy, raise your hand, Roy. My buddy Roy Lindsay is a farmer over in Nieces. And he's been working for 20 years to get a chain big enough to drag his farm into Calhoun County. That's how much we look over here and admire what y'all have done. So I hope you keep that record going. Please go with what your planning commission is, your zoning commission is doing. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Allmer. What I'm gonna do is, we had a half an hour on public comments. We a little over right now. I got 2 more people who spoke already, but I'm gonna give you all 3 minutes also. I've heard you several times. But we're gonna allow you 3 minutes because we don't have any public comments on other matters. So, Ms. Pegg, you said you wanted to be last, and Ms. Coulter, you on there. So we're gonna hear from Ms. Allen. Cole, sorry.
Yes, sir. I haven't spoke to this, Mr. Chairman, before.
Well, you got, if you want other matters, well, you need to stay.
Go at it.
Come on.
I think all of you know me by now. I look taller. I even have people speaking to me in the parking lot and kind of go, okay, it's me again. I'm here with some statistics tonight about safety. From 1999 through February 2020, there were 23 church shootings, including Mother Emanuel Church in Charleston. The most deadly was in 2017 when 26 people were killed at First Baptist Sutherland Springs in Texas. Now, for some statistics that are very sobering and depressing, as they were reported in Wikipedia. Some of these occurred in South Carolina. 1990 through 1999, there were 97 school shootings, including Columbine, where 15 innocent lives were taken and 21 more injured. 2000 through 2009, 68 school shootings, including Virginia Tech, where 33 were killed, 23 injured. There was also Northern Illinois, where 6 were killed and 21 injured. 2010 through 2019, 230 school shootings, including Sandy Hook, where 27 innocent lives were taken and 2 injured. Umpqua University, where 10 were killed and 9 injured. Rancho Bahama Elementary, where 6 were killed, 18 injured. Marjorie Stoneman School, where 17 were killed and 17 injured. Santa Fe High, where 10 were killed and 13 injured. There were many of these that only had 1 killed or only 1 injured. Would you want that one to have been your child, your grandchild, your niece, your nephew, your neighbor's child? I certainly hope not. I am asking you to please not add Sandy Run K through 8, St. Matthews K through 8, Calhoun County High School, or one of our private schools to this list by making it convenient for somewhere between 170 up to 800 more unknown people come into our little tight-knit community of Sandy Run and all of Calhoun County. 1 child killed or injured is way too many. There is nothing, absolutely nothing, any of the developers can't say that will convince me that the proposal will not result in the increased risk of gangs, drugs, and violence in our area. Crowds bring violence. 170 homes on 70 acres is a crowd. I don't understand how anyone would choose to listen to people who do not live in the area and only care about the almighty dollar. Rest assured, the developers would never consider living in such a community. They will be nowhere to be found when the violence happens. Save our children and all the people of Calhoun County. Protect them all, including your friends and neighbors.
Thank you, ma'am.
I've got one more quick comment if I
Go
may.
ahead.
If you vote to approve the rezone, I pray that the citizens of Calhoun County will find it in their hearts to forgive you when our schools, churches, businesses are attacked as a result of the gangs, drugs, and violence which will come into our community. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Nelson, Ms. Peggy Nelson.
Saxcotta Township was established in 1735. The area that is now Sandy Run was included in this township. A lot of us can trace our family trees back to the German families who were settled in the area as early as 1737. This part of South Carolina was untamed and known as the back country. These early settlers tamed the wilderness and passed down a rich, proud heritage to their descendants. In 1804, Lexington County was established and the Sandy Run area became a part of the new county. In 1908, Calhoun County was formed from the Sandy Run portion of Lexington County and parts of Orangeburg County. Sandy Run began as a unique area of Calhoun County and has remained that way. My house is closer to no fewer than 6 incorporated areas in Lexington County and Columbia and Richland County than it is to either incorporated town in Calhoun County. Because of our location, we have met our commerce, employment, health, and recreation needs in Lexington or Richland counties. Many of our relatives live in Lexington County. Parts of Sandy Run lie within Lexington County borders. It has been said that council has heard a lot of emotion coming from Sandy Run. I am proud of our folks as they have conducted themselves always as polite people in these proceedings. I do believe next to God and family, home should be emotional. Because of my husband's military career, my children and I joined him in 2 overseas assignments. I'm not ashamed to say whenever I would hear I'm proud to be an American or I'll be home for Christmas come over the radio, I choked up and wept tears. I by no means was alone in feeling such a longing for home. When I became extremely homesick, I looked up at the moon and reminded myself that the same moon that shone in Okinawa, Iceland, New Mexico, Virginia, Alabama, or Georgia was the same moon that shone on Sandy Run. Not Calhoun County, not South Carolina, not the U.S., but Sandy Run, home. I had the privilege to live around and be a part of the military community for 25 years and know that feelings, yes, emotions, run deep for home. Council members, have you ever heard the expression, those people in Sandy Run? We have also heard that particular pseudonym. As students in school, most folks around my age learned very soon that we were from the wrong side of the proverbial tracks, Beaver Creek. We felt as if we didn't matter. But those of us who grew up in Sandy Run knew that we were indeed from the better side of Beaver Creek, home in Sandy Run. Our location is marvelous, not because of its proximity to commerce and the state capital. My last sentence, it is a marvelous place because it is home, it is family, it is a place where everyone matters. If you vote to change the character of our community, you will indeed reinforce what Sandy Run folks always felt was true. What we think doesn't matter, what we feel doesn't matter, we are expendable.
Thank all the participants. We don't have any public comment on other matters. We don't need to have a public hearing on the block, right? That's okay. You got that.
Chairman?
Go
I
ahead.
wasn't able to get registered. Should I come up and speak?
I'm not supposed to do it, but I'm trying to get this thing settled and get it, sir, come on up. All right. Sir, state your name, because I don't know who you are.
I'm Mike Williamson. I live in Sandy Run. My wife, Linnell, and I moved in the summer. I was trying not to get upset.
No, take your time.
We moved in the summer of 1980, and we did not feel like this was a place you could just walk into, but we were quickly accepted of what we're in, and that is our home. And I have been directly and indirectly involved in subdivisions of this being put in. I have subcontracted work in subdivisions, and I have been superintendent and construction manager also. I have directly seen the impact that this would cause. The roads there cannot handle the traffic. They're not equipped. There is too many houses to be allowed. They need to stay with the amendments that were put in met a couple of people that moved to Sandy Run, wanted to build a house, but was told later they couldn't. They didn't meet the restriction. Why can, or they rejected something this large accepted? Besides traffic, you're gonna have numerous problems, 21, 26, interstate's gonna be backed up, gridlock, especially when they start to do construction. Where's the water coming from? Our water system cannot handle it anymore. The area I live in has directly had 5 breakdowns, the water being cut off, July 1st to mid-August. We deal with that water 5 different times. 2 to 3 days before our water cleared enough to drink it. There's not adequate fire department. The guys there are volunteers, but they do a great job. I've got a nephew, brother-in-law, that's been in the volunteer fire department there. They're proud to be there. I'm proud of them. The sheriff's department needs more people to come in there to help. Where's the sewer coming from? We could be having to tie into Casey or West Columbia. And so, you know, where's this money coming from to fund that? What about kids that could be moving in? Where are they going to school? Seriously, where are they gonna go to school? Sandy Run, K through 8 is a great school. My kids went there. They were proud of it. But it's gonna impact that school great. St. Matthew's High School will be greatly impacted. Private schools, intermediate schools, and all. Where are these kids going to go to school? Lexington, Swansea, Gaston, they're out of the district. These people to be aware that they were in the play.
That's where you're gonna have to call your time, because it wasn't on the agenda, and I extended that.
I just wish y'all would greatly look at
We'll
this.
have to continue on, yes, okay. We appreciate it, we hear you.
Taxes gonna be raised. You have to.
Okay, we're gonna try to continue on the agenda. We have a motion for approval of the August 22nd, 2022 meeting.
Yeah.
That's right. So second, I'll second his motion.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, likewise, the ayes have it. Committee reports, dissolution of fire training committee.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman. As you know, we were asked previously about forming a fire committee for training purposes. And there were 3 to 4 meetings that took place with those committee members that y'all appointed. And ultimately, last week, it was voted on 4-1 to dissolve it and come back under the county and the fire chiefs take on the training. So as we're speaking, we're moving forward on a new training facility, and you'll be getting more information about that in next council meeting.
That's all you have, Joe?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else have any committee reports? Anyone? Okay, we are down to appointments. Los Savannah Council of Government Regional Advisory Board. We're not quite ready to make a little appointment yet. We have some people, but the aging director, who's that aging director over there? John? Who's that aging?
That's Jill Truesdale.
Yeah, well, I want to get with her so she'll be satisfied with the people that we appoint to the board. So once I meet with Ms. Truesdale, I'll hopefully at the next meeting we'll make a little appointment. The chairman's appointment to standing committees. As we all know that Richard Carson is now representing the Cameron area, that area down on the council, and we're gonna give him the committees that the ex-chairman, the David Summers held. He'll be serving on the public service and county planning with Chairman Cecil Thornton. Natural resource and development, he'll be serving on that, Richard will be serving on that committee with John Nelson. And Richard, we're going to appoint you chairman of that committee, and the administrator will get with you on what your primary duties will be on those committees. Thank you. No proclamation, parents, just Waystack, Rezone.
Good evening, council members. Before we start my time, real quick, I got a handout for you. Start right there.
Waystack, yeah, 5 minutes to go down. We're not counting yet. We started.
Yeah, that's fine. I just want to give you this so we can all follow along. Good evening, gentlemen. I hope everybody can hear me.
We all.
Perfect. Good. I want to bring back here. One of the biggest things I've heard is that we have to have rooftops in Calhoun County to draw industry. We've gotten with the Department of Employment and Workforce, and I've got a chart for you to look at, and I want you to understand that only 16.9% of our county residents live and work in Calhoun County. That means the rest of our residents are traveling outside of our county. If you flip to the second page, there's statistics showing you exactly how many travel to each county. These are not made up numbers, they came directly from the Department of Employment and Workforce. Most of our residents are traveling to Orangeburg, Richland, and Lexington County to work. We don't need rooftops to bring jobs. We need industrial growth in this county to bring jobs to the people that currently live here that would like to work in this county. I'm gonna move quick. The next thing I have is a proposed PUD contribution to the county. I pulled this directly from our county tax information. This shows you just like you would see a tax bill breakdown. Yes, if this PUD comes, it will contribute dollars to the county. 170 homes at $275,000 each will contribute approximately $221,000. The HOA will pay taxes of approximately $20,000. You can go through and see the breakdown. That gives $122,000 to schools, $13,000 to school debt, $99,000 to our general fund. Remember that, we're gonna come back to it. $1,600 to our county debt, and a whopping $3,615 to our Sandy Run Fire Department through the fire fee. I ask you, how is Sandy Run Fire Department going to do anything to protect 170 homes with $3,615? If you look at page 2 of that chart, you'll follow along and we'll pick back up to that $99,051 contribution to our general fund, and we'll break it down. I picked the top 10 departments in Calhoun County, and I pulled their current budget that you gentlemen approved in July and put those numbers on this paper. I then extrapolated that number out by the 14,165 people that live in our county according to the U.S. Census Department and came up with a per capita contribution per department. The next line shows what the increase would have to be incrementally to each department to allow that department to focus with 680 new residents, that's 4 residents per 170 homes, with that extrapolated number per capita. You can see it creates a contribution of $300,000 that would need to go into the county budget for just those 10 departments. Keep in mind, I gave you that figure of $99,051 that this PUD would contribute to our county. That leaves a deficit in yellow of $201,000. So I ask you gentlemen, where's that $200,000 going to come from? There's 2 options. Either you raise the taxes for all of us in the county to contribute to that shortfall, or you go to every department in this county and you tell these people that they have to do more service with less money per capita, and that's a hard decision to make. The FBI put out a statistical study. Rural counties across the United States, not metropolitan areas, the average number of law enforcement officers is 2.8 officers per 1,000 residents, not per area. Our sheriff is having to operate at 0.8 deputies per 1,000 residents. We are asking these men and women to go out there at 1/3 the national average and protect us, the citizens of Calhoun County.
just this one department would need a $99,000 raise, which won't even hire 2 more deputies. It still won't follow the federal average of 2.8 deputies per 1,000. EMS would need $89,000. That doesn't buy an ambulance, it doesn't hire an EMT or a paramedic, more or less cover an additional substation. I urge you to please look at this. If for no other reason, look at the dollars and cents, and it doesn't add up. If you look at this and look at the numbers, you have 2 decisions to make. Either you're going to raise taxes for all to cover for a few, or you're going to tell these departments to do without. I'm going to leave it with that. I think I made my point. I want to try and look good. I want you to think about this long and hard.
Thank you, sir. You're right on time. Thank you. Sam White.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you. I'm the president of a construction company and am involved in contracts and working with schools, departments, hospital, malls, chain stores, strip malls. Specifically, my job is to review contracts, over 1,000 for the attorneys to make sure they're not running. I also have served on several other boards in the South Carolina area. I served as the president of the South Carolina Mechanical Contractors Association. I have also served on the South Carolina Building Code Council as an advisor and expert in my field for many years. When you bring in large multi-house building contractors, contracts are something that's very important. D.R. Horton has been sued by this state. I'm not sure everyone in here is aware of that. So I brought with me a copy of that lawsuit, 2015. I'm going to read to you the outcome of that lawsuit by the Supreme Court of the state of South Carolina. Accordingly, we find that the Smiths' lack of meaningful choice in their ability to negotiate the arbitration clause in the agreement. Moreover, in considering the actual provisions of the arbitration agreement, we find that D.R. Horton's attempts to disclaim implied warranty claims and prohibit any monetary damages are clearly one-sided and oppressive. One-sided and oppressive. Under the terms of paragraph 14, only remedy provided for the defect of the home repair or replacement options left entirely to the discretion of D.R. Horton. This is no remedy at all because it leaves the relief to the whim of D.R. Horton while simultaneously allowing no monetary recuperation when, as here, repairs are simply inadequate. We therefore affirm the Court of Appeals and hold the arbitration provision is unconscionable and therefore is unenforceable. So everyone understands this contractor persuaded people to write a waiver and give up their warranties on their homes and make them, they could be uninhabitable. And there was no recourse. And you either took this contract or you didn't get a house built. No negotiations, nothing. That's it. That's what you bring in here. Why would you do that? Please read this lawsuit. This is not what this county needs. And if it needs development, we certainly don't need this contract of development. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
Good job.
We don't have any more appearances, no resolutions. Under new business, do we have anything? Anybody have anything in new business? Oh, you have one item. All right. Acceptance of Nighthawk Lane to the county expenses. John, you want to brief on that?
Yes, sir. So Nighthawk Lane is a private road. There are 8 houses and 1 business on this road. It's roughly 2,000 linear foot long and roughly 10 foot wide. The owner of the dirt of the property has requested that the county accept it into the maintenance system, and we are at the staff level recommending that approval.
Where's that located at?
That is between St. Matthews and Cameron, right down from Millville Road with 176.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept Nighthawk Lane and County Maintenance System.
Yeah, second.
Second.
Properly moved and second that we accept Nighthawk Lane to the county maintenance system. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, likewise, ayes have it. Now, the ordinance 2022-20. It's up for second reading, the ordinance to change the property located at TMS number 421-00-00-01 from industrial, community, commercial, and rural neighborhood to planned development district.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we deny the request of ordinance 2022-20, second reading ordinance to change property location of TMS 021-000011 from industrial, community, commercial, rural neighborhood to planned development district.
I have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Properly moved and second, any further discussion?
Yes, sir. Let me just review a few things from what was said here tonight as we go through this, and just let my phone turn off. That was not very smart of me. I apologize. That's where I put my notes. So give me 1 second to wake it back up. I want to first thank the large number of people who showed up here tonight. I think we've got a very good representation of people, not only from my district in Sandy Run, but from people around the county. And I've had the very great honor and privilege of talking to many of you over the last couple of weeks, as I think this whole issue has resonated with a large group of people that are very much at sympathy with those of us in Sandy Run that are, I think, very clearly, very acutely made our case. Thank Mr. Whetstone for coming tonight. I think that says a lot about Scott, that he, our neighboring chairman from our harsh neighboring counties. It does, and I can tell you politically, that's a tough position. So Scott and I share a large, long border, and the great community of Sandy Run, we split it. When he actually won his election, I remember going out and taking the tour with him and showing some of our joint constituents that we have. I have some Lexington County constituents y'all might not know about, but that's just the neighbor and the nature of Sandy Run. So we go back, and I've known him for many years, and appreciate his very thoughtful words tonight, and appreciate him being there. And just a quick review, again, the last 4 or so years we've gone through this process. Mr. Rowell, Mr. George stated it very clearly tonight, but just to reiterate, we agreed to, on this county council, to develop the Sandy Run area plan, which was funded at about $130,000, which clearly everybody that wanted to got a chance to participate in Sandy Run, and made a very clear statement about where we wanted our community to go. And from that plan, the council graciously allowed us to go through with the process of rezoning in the community of Sandy Run. That was a very difficult discussion, because it was stated here tonight that essentially to complete and accept that zoning, that meant that all of us, our landowners in Sandy Run, had to give up some of our property rights in order to, we hope, guarantee that we will not get a type of development that will in fact change the nature of our community. That was very clearly stated. And again, this council voted, once we went through that very difficult process in March of 2021, unanimously by a 5-0 vote to sustain that and to codify that new ordinance that was put in effect at that time. And then in December of the same year, 2021, the developer came forth and signed the deeds on his property. And it was stated earlier, under clear knowledge of something that happened about 8 months prior, the current zoning that we had. So this was not done in a vacuum. It was done with clear and direct knowledge. Following that, our planning commission took it up here in the last June and July, and by 2 unanimous votes, after having looked at 2 different proposals, one of the largest set of houses, one somewhat pared down, voted twice by a unanimous 5-0 vote. Our planning commission, which the folks that we appoint, to turn that down, and then it came to us. So last week we took a vote, or last council meeting we took a vote, and we split 3-2, and here we are again tonight in second reading to consider it again. Let me just add a few facts here that kind of add to Mr. Waystack's comments and others that have commented tonight. With regard to the additional taxes, I think that across the board, clearly you can make a case that when you do uncontrolled rapid expansion, that at some point you're gonna hit certain, I use the word tripwires or milestones that will cause you to have to add extra infrastructure that will cost a lot of extra money. Now, in part of the conversations that I had, I actually called and talked to Mr. Tulloch, or Dr. Tulloch, our Calhoun County School Superintendent, and he was very engaging. We had a great discussion. I'll go ahead, just in a matter of fairness to this body, and make the statement right now, because I don't want to pile on with bad information, that our school really isn't the one entity that's going to quickly be affected by this particular rule or this decision if we were to make it, simply because they do have some excess capacity in the schools. So I mean, that he made that comment, and so I put that out there just to let everybody know I'm being fair about this. Frankly, a number of the children will go to other locations because of the location of state law. Some of them will go to Swansea districts. Some of them will go to Columbia, to some of the other schools that or Lexington or that area when the parents commute back and forth. Simply because of our proximity, and those of us that live in Sandy Run know it's a long commute to St. Matthews from Sandy Run, so some of that will happen. So we will get another school or a high school in Sandy Run at some point. That is going to happen. But with this, to be fair, this initial 170 houses probably will not be the tripwire that makes that happen. However, as we grow in the southern end of the county, other parts of the county, we will reach that point, and doing the research, when we build that school, under current dollars that we would have to pay today, when you do the site prep, the sewer, and everything else that's involved to get a South Carolina Department of Education approved school, under current dollars, you're talking about $40 million to build that school. You just can't build for what we did before, and everybody understands the high level of inflation we're in right now. The point that's delayed even further, that school will cost more whenever it's built. So I'll set the education piece aside. Let's talk about the most important, well, but all three of these important, our fire, our EMS, and our police coverage. The one that's going to bite us the worst and have the biggest dollar requirement up front when we hit the tripwire will be EMS. Now, some of you may know I'm also in the EMS business. In fact, I have a pilot working for me right now. I'd normally be getting up right now to go to work and do my other thing tonight. So I kind of work with these people. I've got a little bit of appreciation for what they do. But on our ground side, if those of you don't know, we have a wonderful EMS service in Calhoun County. We have 3 bases or locations scattered throughout the county, or northern end, middle, and southern end that service our county and do it quite well. And our director, Ms. Christy Yeomans, just does a phenomenal job. And in chatting with her and getting data, the big thing that we need to look at right now with regard to EMS is response time. Now, it kind of fits in a little differently than some of the data Mr. Waystack put out, but I mean, I think it does mesh in a certain sort of way. At some point, we're going to have an extended response time in this county because of the growth of the county, that we will have to add another EMS station. That's just going to happen. Right now, response time that the federal authorities ask for is about 9 minutes for someone that's having a difficult situation. I can tell you, as someone that actually has seen many times someone to my right hand and my left hand in a helicopter dying of a heart attack, I can tell you 9 minutes is a pretty long time.
That's right.
And right now, our response time in Sandy Run is right at about 13 minutes. And so at some point, I don't know, I can't tell y'all in this room what it's going to be, whether it goes to 15 minutes or 16 or whatever, but at some point, as we add population in the Sandy Run and throughout the rest of the county, it's going to hit a threshold that we're going to demand we've got to have a more responsive EMS system. And so whenever that happens, you have to add those folks, and in terms of the numbers for that, in order to staff a full EMS station, it's going to be about another $500,000 to pay for the personnel to staff that station. And that doesn't count the building the plant for the station, that doesn't count the $200,000 you got to buy the ambulance, that doesn't count for the litters and the medicines and all the other equipment that goes with it. So it's a big dollar bill when you got to cross it, but at some point we'll demand that because the response times will get to the point that we just have to have it. And so it's a little bit more of an arbitrary thing. So the point I'd like to make is that's why we need to focus more on the commercial industrial part of the growth, because that won't drive us to that need as soon. We're going to need it at some point, but we need to focus on getting the commercial industrial, getting that tax base up, and planning for it so that when we have to do it, we'll have the resources available to do it. And just in a matter of make things kind of brief, get to the point. To some less degree for the sheriff's department, which the numbers that was told earlier were exactly correct. The sheriff department really needs about, by national standard, about 3 times the number of officers. And so every one officer you add, it's about $64,000, 64, probably gonna go close to 70 with inflation. For every one full-time officer, EMS person, fire, it's about that factor that you have to pay for each one extra that you get. And so whether it's 3 or 4, and if it's the fire, we're gonna have to have at least, when you get these houses pushed in there together, you'll have to have some full-time firefighters, which we have 0 in Sandy Run right now. If you start with 4, you just ate up the money that we're gonna get from this, because we're gonna get about $95,000 to $99,000 per year for the county tax portion of that $225,000 the developer says we're gonna need. That's the developer's numbers, not my number. School gets the rest of that. So the math just doesn't add up. Essentially, we know that we're going to demand that the services maintain the same. So the thing that's going to happen if we do this is we're going to raise taxes on everybody. And that's just the truth of it by any reasonable, bite of the apple on this thing. So that's what I'm saying with how it affects us. It will make our taxes go up, and that's why I'm arguing for, let's focus on the commercial industrial. Let's let the ordinance that we put in place, let's let it develop at that pace, more control and slow growth, and I think we'll be able to meet these other challenges that are clearly going to be out there for our expenses in the county, so that we can maintain not only our quality of life, but also do it in a manner that we won't raise our taxes for people in Calhoun County. So I'm going to cut it off right there. I spoke a little too long, but I do want to challenge my other council members. Please, before you take this vote, please tell these people, like we stated earlier, if you're going to vote against it, please use some sort of data and detailed response like I was trying to do just now, and don't just vote against it. Tell us why specifically, other than it's for the good of the county, or we know something you don't know. You've got to tell us why. So I challenge every one of my cohorts up here. Tell us specifically why, and that's all I'm going to say.
Any more comments let me just make a couple of comments. Not before I call him. I just want to tell this audience something I did. I first got on council 31 years ago. We used to meet 9 o'clock in the morning. You see the huge crowd we got out of it, and I appreciate it. It was me who made a deal with another councilman that we were going to have evening meetings so the general public can come and give us their opinion. Well, this is what we're doing now, getting the opinions of the public. When this thing first came to us, we had not heard, I hadn't been to the planning commission, may have been some of my fault, commission meeting, hadn't heard anything. I was interested in finding out for myself, still is, exactly what's going on. I don't make decisions, and I told a lady emotional, on people just coming. I've seen that a lot of times. I make a decision based on being right or wrong, not because somebody tell me. And I have to figure that out for myself. So what we did, we went to from 9:30 in the morning meetings to 7:30, 5:30 in the afternoon, so working people could come to the meetings and could express their opinions. This is the first year I've been the chairman of this council. What I did when I got in right away is made the agenda that we could have public comments. We didn't have that for 40 years. But I wanted to interject the public to come in and make their statements and see what they say. That's how I make my decisions, based on when I hear the public. We hadn't passed anything yet. I mean, people keep saying you passed it. What we did was we put a resolution on the floor so councilmen could hear comments just like y'all making right now. It wasn't a thing hadn't passed yet. Nothing has passed. I want to make that perfectly clear. And that's what I say to people who call me. Nothing has passed. We wanted to hear these comments. We heard some good ones. I went overboard tonight. That's what I'm trying to interject by working with the public. I went overboard tonight, over the 3 minutes for some people, but it was real. I thought interested in what we needed to hear. I let these people talk longer. I want to hear the public. I'm not to just personally, I don't know about the rest of you gentlemen, I'm not to just make a decision just to make it. I need to, set in my mind when I'm making a decision, and it's right, that's what we're here for. I'm not here against anybody or against somebody that's particularly. If anybody can say somebody was against me, because I look around in the room here, I can tell you some things about being against people. I had to get back to what was against me in my coming up. So I know what you're talking about when you say you're saying you run. I was from the other side of the track. So I know exactly what was going on. Let me just tell you, it's not a one-sided story there. Again, like I said, what we wanted to do, you know, on this thing when we first got the
Have you heard one thing positive about
Sir,
this?
you're out of order back there. I don't know who you are, but you're out of order. We had a chance for public comments on it, and you're out of order. Now, if you get out of order again, I want the sheriff to escort you out. Just that simple. We gave you a chance to come. Somebody said we didn't, so you need to compromise. Well, this council head did. When this thing first was passed and they didn't know what was going on, the administrator went back to the developer. I'm not defending anybody, but I'm just saying, we did compromise at one time. It was 370 houses originally. And it came back with the 107 before. That's why we put it on the thing, to see what people would think. Wasn't trying to stuff anything down anyone's throat. We made comments about stuff, and people, even one I heard on there when we had the supermarket that was none in the county, and this council voted to give them a $25,000 break. Well, we give these industries up in the county millions of dollars a break.
That's right.
And we got, I don't know how many people in this county work at that supermarket now, in the county and out of the county. So it's created jobs and all for people, plus a place where we can buy groceries at. The little old lady don't have to pay somebody to take them to Orangeburg to buy groceries. So it's not that we hadn't been fair or looking at this thing fair, just looking, or just saying we want to screw Sandy around. That's not the case. Personally, I wanted to hear this. I enjoyed hearing from y'all. You know, that's why I opened it up, and that's why I let you came in. Now, we're gonna take a vote on this thing. Any other comment? I wish other councilmen would comment if they wanna, because they say they wanna hear from you also. Be pleased to hear you comment if somebody has one. Richard, you have something?
Yeah, I'll speak to it. I think the information that Teresa particularly gave us is pretty open information. If it's current and real, like he said, and I'm going off his word, $201,000 that we're going to need to fulfill all the people. And I do know that the sheriff's department, I haven't had opportunity really to sit down and talk to Sheriff Summers one-on-one. I told him I wanted to speak to him one-on-one about how many more people they do need in his budget along those lines. I came in after all the budgets was done for this year, but I will be looking at it going forward. Where I came from, budgets was very important, and I created my own budget and everything every year. So I'm opposed to it the way it's presented as of now. But down the road, if they want to come back to what's out there with a different proposal, I'm all for that. But as it stands right now, with the proposal they presented, I am against it.
Anybody else? Okay, I'll take the vote. John had a motion in a second. I got a motion in a second on the floor. All in favor?
Yeah, vote to disapprove.
Just disapprove that.
Disapprove.
I appreciate you all being courteous. You know, I meant to say that also on the emails and stuff that I received. It was people just giving me information. I had one or two that, you know, I didn't like. I mean, but you get that, you like it. The majority of them I want to commend the San Diego community for how they emailed me and told me their points and stuff, so I appreciate what y'all did with that. Thank you. But, all opposed? We had three. The motion is this, the resolution is not passed. The resolution is disapproved, and the ordinance is dead. All right, now we got to go down to ordinance 2022-21, second reading. An ordinance to amend chapter 2, article 4, division 6, by adding section 2-3. Y'all please, our meeting's not over yet. Please be quiet and have order. We had it before. So let's continue to do that. Thank you. Now, the ordinance 2022-21, second reading. Ordinance to amend chapter 2, article 4, division 6, by adding section 2-313 regarding Regional Medical Center of Orangeburg and Calhoun County Board of Trustees. May I have a motion for, and do anybody need any clarification on that? Putting that, okay, doing that, y'all clear on that?
Yep.
I think we motion to move forward. Properly moving second that we, pass second reading on ordinance, 2022-21. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, likewise. Let me ask you one thing about that, hospital thing. Do we need to have our, representatives in place at the next meeting?
Yes, sir, and I'll touch on that on the administrator,
Okay.
if you'll turn that to me now.
Okay, all right, John, go ahead.
All right, so, as you just voted on the second reading, on the partnership between MUSC and RMC, the work group is complete. In essence, Calhoun County will get 2 board members to serve, whereas we currently have 3. So I would like to take the opportunity to thank those 3 board members who have served through these years. Certainly, it's not been an easy thing to do. We've got the final reading coming up at the next council meeting, and then October the 1st, we will have everything complete by October the 1st. That's when the lease will begin, and the board will start setting up the background behind the lease. This is a 99-year lease with the hospital, and more details will come from that. Also, in that same regard, one thing that we are having trouble with at the county level is filling positions with boards, commissions, volunteer organizations. So what we are looking at is moving forward with a software package. It's called Matchboard. A number of counties have used it. We learned about it at the Association of Counties Conference, whereas you receive applicants, any applicant that's willing to serve on a board or a commission, it'll be a clearinghouse to pull all that together, and then as needed, we'll be able to utilize those applicants when they come up. Also, in regards to the last meeting with Mr. Brett Weaver came and had some concerns. I know we said we would come back and let you know an update. We have responded to Mr. Weaver. We have been responsive to Mr. Weaver throughout this process. And ultimately, we've done a number of inspections, both our building department as well as Safe Built, who's our contract inspector. But this is a owner-contractor dispute. Okay, it's a civil matter. LLR is investigating the case, and we should be hearing something back from them shortly, as well as our county attorney has reviewed the documents, and he has responded to Mr. Weaver directly. Okay, so if you have any questions or concerns from Mr. Weaver, please let us know in that regard. And then the last thing is something that we've been working on for about 1.5 years. We have heard the fact that we need more recreational opportunities in the county, not just in St. Matthews, but on the lower portion of the county and the upper portion of the county. And so what we started doing about 1.5 years ago was looking at sites throughout the county for recreational opportunities, and ended up starting to work with Haigler AME Church on ultimately leasing the Eastman Park. Okay, we've gone through those negotiations. We've talked to them. We've got a memorandum of understanding put together along with a lease, and this will be a 50-year lease, long-term lease. And the reason for that is because through PARD and other grant funding opportunities, we feel like with that investment, we need to have a longer duration. Okay, it's been approved by the Hayward AME Church organization, and we'll have more information to you at the Rec Committee meeting that we'll have coming up next week. But ultimately, we want to have a ribbon cutting on September the 30th at 10 o'clock, and that's for the general public as well. September the 30th at 10 o'clock at the old Eastman Park. We're going to have a number of folks out there, and I think if you've seen it or if you've been involved with it in the past, hopefully you'll like what you see when you come back out. That's it for me. Council, if you have any questions for him.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I appreciate John and the staff for taking the initiative and doing all the work that was needed to complete that deal with Hayward and Recreation Park. That goes back through my tenure on council, and we looked at that before. It didn't work out that we would assume that in the early years we were looking at it, but Hayward took it on for a while. I've been up there and seen the great work they've done over those years, and they've done just a wonderful job maintaining it. But they have asked street staff, of course, to complete this partnership now. And I think it'll say a lot about our community, and if we all come together on this and really support, I think it'll be a great benefit to all of us here that have been to Eastern Park, the past many in this room. And I think it'll be a great opportunity for us to be able to share that as a recreational outlet to folks throughout the county and beyond the county, certainly people in Sandy Run. So I appreciate y'all's work doing that.
We're down to executive session. We have an economic development matter, letter of intent from Project Hammer. Going to executive session.
Chairman, I move we go into executive session to discuss a letter of intent, Project Hammer.
Second.
Properly moved and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, likewise. Thank everybody for coming. We enjoyed the comments.
So was that it?
Appreciate you.